would like to ask Evan and his team to come forward so they can give us an update on the Thousand Mermaid project.
You mean Evan, the resident of the city of Hollywood?
Oh, Evan Snow, the
One
resident
of the
the
newest
city of Hollywood,
residents of the
yes.
city of Hollywood. Enthusiastic residents of the city of Hollywood.
Team Hollywood.
Thank you for being here, Evan.
Welcome, Shelby. Welcome, Evan.
We need more Evan Snows here.
Hey,
Certainly do.
we need more Lisa Leotas here.
That's right.
Who's also a resident of the city of Hollywood.
Okay.
Indeed.
Just right and left. Gotcha. All right. Hello, good morning, everyone.
Please put the microphone up so we can hear you.
Can you hear now? Good.
Can you hear me now?
Great. All right. Hello, everyone. My name's Shelby Thomas. I'm the CEO of the Ocean Rescue Alliance and Thousand Mermaids Project. If you want to give a quick
Yeah.
intro.
Evan Snow, co-founder and COO of Thousand Mermaids and Ocean Rescue Alliance.
Great. We're going to be presenting today the A Thousand Mermaids Artificial Reef Project that we're hoping to bring to the city of Hollywood. And we'll be giving a quick recap of what our organization is and the project itself. So the Ocean Rescue Alliance is a marine conservation and restoration nonprofit organization. We implement innovative techniques to scale marine restoration and restore our marine ecosystems. We primarily incorporate these waves of action, focusing on reef restoration, creating complex artificial structure that supports marine life, incorporates applied restoration of oysters, mangroves, and corals, and integrates art to promote connecting the public back to the ocean. These sites then create ecotourism destinations that can further help facilitate connecting the community, and we build citizen science and education programs around every single project to really incorporate the community further. Building partnerships and collaboration, but further conducting research to continue our organization and expanding more resources that can help our marine ecosystems. First, I'm going to quickly talk about artificial reefs. You guys may be familiar for about some near this area. Typically, artificial reefs are trash of land, construction pilings, boulders, debris, ships, and all these have in common they look and act nothing like natural reef systems. They're often not the most eco-friendly materials, and they also lack critical complexity that supports fisheries. They don't support biodiversity of fish and corals as well. So I'm going to talk about how we're a little bit different. We build artificial structures to mimic natural reef morphology, creating complex artificial reef habitat that supports different life stages and fish species. They're also made out of eco-friendly materials, a pH-neutral concrete, and help support fish diversity as well as enabling applied restoration techniques. That image on the top of the right screen, all those circles you see can actually outplant corals with a coral lock. We're able to outplant hundreds of corals at each one of our modules. We integrate art and memorial reefs as a way to connect the public back to the ocean. It's often out of sight, out of mind, and we really believe art can facilitate further connecting the community and creating unique dive destinations. This project will continue the 1,000 Mermaids Project, which you can see the top two left-hand photos, is from this reef project in West Palm. And this incorporates artistic sculptures, creating a unique dive destination. Further, we can create plaques that can further connect the community, giving each individual a way to help impact our marine environments. Integrating coral restoration is a priority for all of our South Florida sites. We integrate the coral locks, which is a threaded frag plug seen in the bottom right photo. We've done a lot of natural reef restoration throughout the Florida Keys and Key Biscayne and intend to be doing coral restoration at these sites as well. We utilize the latest and greatest technology to use 3D and VR scanning to take digital assets and actually can take any person or image and turn them into a reef module. We then take that digital asset, we're creating a virtual and augmented reality to be able to utilize that as a lesson platform, also to provide an experience virtually that's immersive to allow people to dive and further learn about marine conservation. And this is really our vision, is to build these holistic artificial sites that helping create habitat for marine life, but also enabling restoration of corals, further connecting the community through programs, bolstering ecotourism, but also helping further protect our coastlines. We've been developing for the last year with the University of Miami wave reduction modules that can help protect against coastal erosion. These are strategically built to reduce wave energy. And these would be for intention in the future for nearshore sites, hopefully helping mitigate the need for beach renourishment. So we're going to segue into the Hollywood Artificial Reef proposal. We have over 20 modules that were intended for the city of Dania Beach. which are now available to deploy in this area. We have several permit sites that we'll be providing. This project will include all of these 20 reef modules and 5 artistic modules, including a selfie tail, as well as a diver suit and a few mermaid sculptures. This project will also incorporate citizen science and educational events that will incorporate the community, but also targeting the youth to bring awareness to marine conservation and include post-monitoring surveys. These are some images of our existing modules that we have prepared and that are ready to be deployed, 5 of these being artistic, and the remaining 15 are strategically built for biological habitat and integrating the coral lock. We actually have 25,000 corals ready to be outplanted on this site within Broward, and we're looking forward to hopefully getting a reef out here soon so we can really build these programs, but more importantly, restore our marine environments. I have here outlined the permit areas that are currently open. The 2 white dots on the top, the right-hand screen image, are open permit sites with the county, and these are 45 feet of depth, so it's an easy open water dive. There's also sites that are looking forward in the future to do nearshore sites that can be snorkelable. And the circle outlines the dot that we would intend to deploy first. And just for geographic reference, this would be right off of the Hollywood Beach in between Jefferson Street and Hollywood Boulevard. So it'd be right off the shore there. And you can see that denoted by the dark arrow. So the project cost, the construction is $80,000 for the 25 reef modules. And the deployment cost is outlined on the right, which would be coordinating for the barge, and the barge is estimated to be around $40,000. The project total, without additional options of programs, is $127,000. And I'll move on to a few options that we also can integrate into the project. Our goal is to really integrate programs around every single project that we create to further connect the community, continue doing research and monitoring, incorporating not only the community, but also other local universities and school systems. So we have a few different programs outlined: our monitoring and citizen science program, as well as conducting further coral restoration, utilizing this site as a coral nursery to further help enhance our natural reef systems nearby, as well as doing public events and marketing. And quickly, to get into some of our citizen science and education initiatives, we promote community engagement through developing different workshops, beach and dive site cleanups, continued reef monitoring and restoration efforts, as well as other events. We've really looked to engage with the Coral Rangers, youth, particularly middle and high school, in marine conservation and really getting a hands-on physical way to learn about our marine environments. So this Hollywood Reef site would have a variety of different benefits, primarily focusing on habitat enhancement, helping enhance coral restoration with 25,000 corals available to outplant on this site, incorporating ecotourism and citizen science and educational initiatives, but also further media and exposure for the city. We were fortunate to get a Good Morning America segment for the Dania Beach deployment, and actually have a follow-up that they were wanting to address for the next deployment. So we'd like to propose to you guys to help us save our oceans one reef at a time. Thank you. Evan, do you have any comments?
And obviously, we know all the benefits to the environment, but it would be a big win in terms of media exposure, in terms of citizen science opportunities, in terms of education opportunities, marketing for the city. It's a tremendous ecotourism driver in season, off season, for our hotels along the beach, for our local dive charter operators, and it really is a win-win-win for everybody.
Board Member Biederman.
First, thank you for moving to Hollywood. Secondly, thank you for everything you do with your other roles. And but while we're on this topic, where's the funding coming from? Is this through donations, fundraisers? What's our portion of it? Or is this the entire cost is borne by us?
We are working with Evan to come up with a proposal that we intend to present. If we follow the regular agenda process, we would be bringing it back to the board at the January meeting, we believe. We anticipate that it could be walked on to the December agenda if this is something that the board really wants to expedite. But if we follow the regular agenda process, we would bring it back to you at the January meeting. We have some estimated costs so far, but we're still working with Evan to fine-tune the proposal.
Okay.
To
and
sharpen that pencil.
do we have to do any kind of RFP or anything like this, or is this, how's
I think
this,
here we're piggybacking on existing agreements. If, I'm going to ask Susan to come up and address
Thank
that.
you. And so the 127,000 is our bottom baseline cost?
Right.
That they're going to be looking at the CRA for? Okay.
Right, so the $127,000 is actual kind of construction cost and the barge. It's really direct costs. The other costs, we'll be working with Raylan's department as well as Shelby and Evan, which are the extra items that we still have to go over in further detail, which is the monitoring and citizen program, the coral restoration, and the public events and marketing. So we'll be doing that over the next month. They were a sole provider in the city of Dania Beach. We did get a copy of their their installation agreement that they had with Dania Beach. They were a sole provider because of the uniqueness and that there were no other companies in Florida doing something like this. So again, over the next month, we would be working with our procurement department to see if we could piggyback off of that or it would just be a sole provider. But we did get a copy of the agreement that they do have with Dania Beach.
Okay. So a couple more questions for Shelby or Evan. Do you work with NSU or any of them as far as your creation of the coral nursery and all that, or is this something that is an ongoing project by your organization?
So we're partnered with a lot of different universities, specifically with NSU. We've outplanted corals on natural reef systems, and we'd plan to bring them in terms of helping with further developing programs with their students, conducting research at this site. So once it's there, it really becomes open to the community, and it's a resource that other students can utilize to conduct further restoration and monitoring as well.
And could we see the map again of where the...
Yes. And then a quick comment to this. This is our underwater selfie tail on the right, and we have a module intended that would be just like this one, which I forgot to mention.
Underwater selfie tail, is that what you said?
Yes.
So you can take a picture,
dive
selfie
and
with
take a
the
picture.
mermaid? Okay. Which opens it up to my next question, but okay.
But yes,
I think I know where Kevin's going, but go ahead.
We've talked, I just was curious about where the exact location was, so it's very interesting, the location that we picked. We've talked about cameras, you know, cam, is that where you thought I was going? No? Okay. So
I thought you wanted it to say. I thought you wanted it to say Hollywood.
I'm not touching that. We've talked about you know, the webcams that we have, and we've talked about, you know, underwater cams by the outfall pipe. I think that an underwater cam somewhere near this would be great also for those of us that don't dive, just to witness the natural beauty of under the water. Is there technology around? Have you explored that with any of your other projects?
Yep. There's a Coral City camera you might be familiar with a project.
No, but I'll look it up when we're done.
It's in Miami, and it's actually syndicated and broadcasted in the Miami International Airport, and then it's syndicated to some other channels, receives hundreds of thousands of views. It's a big hit. It picks up like really unique marine life, manatees, and different types of fish species. So that's something that we would be glad to work with you guys on integrating in the project to extend the reach and to extend the viewership to maybe those that don't dive. And
I
also
would
help-
love that to be a part of moving forward.
Yeah, if I may,
depending on
Susan.
what the cost, ongoing costs are.
Susan just reminded me that we're also working on 4 nearshore locations that we're probably about 2 months away from being able to implement. So
That's key.
yeah, and those will be snorkelable, so you can just
Right.
go from shore
That's key.
right to that.
Yeah.
The other
In the
thing
near
that-
shore, you could integrate that very easily, but we're also working with FIU, who's developing an autonomous vehicle that can also take footage, and we can actually integrate it into the structure.
I was just
So
going to go
that's
with
part of
that.
the research that would be
If,
conducted.
depending on what my colleagues think, if George, can you find out about some kind of an underwater drone that we might be able to get, because that would be great broadcasting for, or you know, footage that we could use, similar to, I think somebody was talking about it last month about the bar in Colorado that is live broadcasting our beach cam.
Well, we would look to Evan and Shelby to help us, you know, identify those opportunities. Although, I mean, it may make sense just to have a stationary camera. I don't know about the drone system. Maybe periodically we can implement that through an outside contract, but we just don't have the expertise to do
get
that
it.
on our own.
All right, thank you.
All right, Board
I
Member
like it.
Shuham?
I love the idea of the underwater camera, and I have seen the ones out there already, and it's so much fun. It's like the zoo cams, you know, you just sit there and get hypnotized watching it. I just want to make it clear that before this came up, we were proceeding with our 4 closer to shore sites. So we are, you know, it's unfortunate what happened to Dania, but Hollywood was actually ahead of this with our inshore sites, and then this opportunity came up. So my question, Susan, is if this works out with Thousand Mermaids, will they be able to add on to that contract the inshore sites?
So that's exactly what we're going to be discussing with procurement. The permit that we've applied for with the county and DEP for the 4 nearshore sites gives us a permit for all 4 sites. We can elect if we want to do all 4 sites, or if we want to do one site and then maybe another site. And the idea is, once we get the permit for those nearshore sites, which would be, you know, snorkelable, that we could put into the procurement contract with their group, that those would also be these coral modules. So that's something that when we come back to you, we'll include that.
Okay. And when you talk about piggybacking, the 127, is that identical to the Dania contract?
The contract, that's the contract with Dania Beach talked more about the installation. It didn't have the fine lines about all the costs broken down. And it didn't include, let's say, the barge costs. So that's why I was saying it might not be exactly apples to apples where we could piggyback, but it definitely would be a sole provider, we think. But again, we have to work with procurement to make sure that, you know, everything is correct.
It seemed to me the fact that the modules are already made would be, lead to a favorable price, but it would also support the sole source.
Or best interest,
requirements for
right.
Procurement.
Right.
So it's a bit different. And as Commissioner Case just pointed out, we have the beach renourishment project coming along. And so time being of the essence, the fact that these modules are already completed would, I think, further support the sole source aspect of this. So just bear in mind that you have that renourishment project coming up when you're arguing with procurement to be able to use this as a sole source.
I don't think we could, I know the nearshore structures, we would not be able to install until beach renourishment project
I'm
was
talking
finished.
about
But the
this.
deep sea, yes.
Just a point, I had sent Evan an article recently, and I also sent it to our risk management, that there's been recent studies that show that coral reefs reduce wave energy by 97%. So I want to know where your arrow is. What building is right there on the beach? Is it the Summit? So the Summit should really be speaking with their insurance carriers to try to get a discount because of what we're doing here.
If only these reefs would really block the wave action to that degree, yes.
Okay, and then, so I talked about that. The reefs that you are showing, what's the length? How far out from shore are they? Are they within paddleable distance?
It's not advisable. It could be, but we do recommend that somebody.
How many feet, Evan, is
About
it?
3/4 of a mile out.
Oh, so that's a no. Let's see. And your permitting to do this is already in place. You're basically ready to go, okay?
Yes, and the red box that you see outlined, there's actually multiple locations. So 2 of the approved locations were the 2 yellow dots here that you see on the right-hand side of the screen. We were going to be starting to project in that first one that's outlined in the red circle. But the idea would be, especially over time, if there's interest to continue doing the project sites, you can make it an expansive habitat corridor and add to it every year.
Okay, great. Well, I mean, personally, I couldn't be more excited about this. I think it's, again, I'm sorry for Dania, but it's an opportunity for Hollywood, and I personally would like you to bring this back to us in December. I mean, they're ready to go. They just have to rent a barge and put them down there, right? So why not walk it on in December? I'd be curious if there was any objection to that, but
If I may make a quick comment as well, since these are already constructed, one thing we like to do also is a pre-deployment to enable the public to stage them prior to them going out. So you can maximize just making sure the public is aware of the project, doing multiple events prior. So I'm not sure if there's areas for staging, but if there's of interest for that, we're able to stage them prior to the deployment.
Absolutely, we have a park right there.
Yeah, we explored potentially staging them in the Arts Park or potentially along the Broadwalk, so
that's
that
great.
the community can interact with them. We could have a ribbon cutting
Downtown.
event or different events for people to engage and learn about them. And if we could just state briefly, just to clarify, about the impacts on the positive impacts on potential beach renourishment. The reefs do have to be out there for some period of time for there to be monitoring and data collected and all that. But it is speculated that these artificial reefs can potentially mitigate the need for extensive beach renourishment. So this small contribution, while it's not going to eliminate the total cost of your annual beach renourishment, could potentially contribute to reducing that number. And once they're out there, we'll begin to monitor and collect that data. And amongst other impacts, we're working on some white papers for the benefits of ecotourism to actually put a dollar figure to the economic impact of hotel stays, dive charter operators, and all the intrinsic benefits of people coming to dive the reefs that weren't there previously.
So I'm just curious, Evan, if you find that these things really do help with wave action, and if a city had a particular spot that was very susceptible, have you thought about, pinpointing where artificial reefs could go to really help susceptible locations?
Yeah, so the nearshore environment would be ideal for that, typically 15 to 25 feet. We've been working with the University of Miami that's also building these large structures, and we've been conducting research for the last year in the sustained wave tank with them.
Fantastic.
There's an area right in front of the Diplomat that we have always
That's what I was just thinking.
identified as a hotspot of renourishment issue. So that would be a really good.
And we can collect bathymetry data to identify the strategic location of what would be the best location.
Okay, I mean, I could not be more excited. The sooner the better. I'm assuming if it is this 127, George, that you will find a way to make this work. And, if anybody has any objections to walking this on in December, I'd like to hear it. But otherwise, Mayor, that's all I have.
Thank you. Let's go to Board Member Kaleri.
Did you want to say something?
I just want to say if it's ready to go on the December meeting agenda, we would bring it for your consideration. If you wanted to add it to the agenda, you could do it at that meeting. But if it's not ready to go, then we would wait till the January meeting.
Good?
Thank you.
Okay. So I have a question. How many of these are already active, and how have they matured and maintenance-wise? As far as the upkeep, how long did it take to actually be in full effect and so forth and so on? Can you provide that?
Yeah, so our first deployment in West Palm was in 2019. It's kind of like the Romans say, if you build it, they will come.
Yep.
The fish move in right away, and recruitment starts really rapidly. There's no maintenance, so we want things to grow. In terms of doing coral restoration efforts, we haven't done that at the West Palm site due to permits, but here we have a great location. If you guys are familiar with the Port Everglades expansion and Osborne Tire Reef, there's a big movement to remove the corals there, so that's the corals we'd be receiving for this site. So that's even better because we'd be able to actually facilitate the active restoration of corals on the site immediately, which gives them a chance to grow more rapidly before algal recruitment.
Okay, perfect. The size of that structure that you have, do you have a size approximately, like how tall and how wide it is that you've already prefabricated and made?
Yes. I just wanted to have Shelby answer one more part of your question regarding the benthic growth and kind of where they're at in regards to
Yeah.
the growth?
You can visit some of the photos on our website, oceanrescuealliance.org and 1000mermaids.com. We have all complete 100% coverage of different encrusting sponges and other benthic communities to our structures. Lots of fish. I actually just did a site visit just last month, so I'd be happy to share some more videos as well if you guys would like to
Awesome.
see it.
We'd like to see that.
But for your other question in terms of size, we have a few different variable sizes between 5 feet by 5 feet by 6 feet. So the height being between 5 and 8 feet tall.
From ocean ground.
Yeah.
Okay. And this particular one, the selfie one, that's about 5 feet?
The
more.
the selfie tail is about 8 feet tall.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I like it. Bigger, better. Yeah. Okay. So here's a couple of things which I'm surprised Commissioner Biederman, but probably the mayor will add. On that fishtail, I know you said that we could put plaques and such, but can it be branded to say Hollywood, Florida?
Exactly.
To have like some iridescent color like the coral, but make sure that it's bold but beautiful enough to say when you take that selfie, you know that you're in Hollywood, Florida with either a sea turtle. Can that be done? And extra costs. I'd like to have that come back when you come back in December, okay? Now, you said the dive site, you could not swim it, and you probably run out of oxygen by the time you got there with your tanks. So it's a dive site by accessibility through a small vessel, correct?
Charter vessel.
Charter vessel. Will there be a dive ball or buoy that's out there marking that spot, or is it kind of just determined upon location?
We would publish the coordinates. If you guys wanted to, we could apply for a mooring buoy, especially if there's intention in the future to be adding to the site. We could establish that, and that way divers can easily identify the site.
So I think that that's really something also that we can hone in on, because on that dive buoy, you could also brand it Hollywood, Florida, so that it's seen from a drone above and that this is the dive site, so forth and so on. Just thinking out of the box. And the problem, not that it's a problem, it's definitely not a problem, because you build one and you're going to probably have to put 5 or 6 more in there because it's going to be so busy. That's why I was worried about the size, because this is an opportunity for divers, and being in a family that dive in the Caymans all the time, people are going to get frustrated from the wait. It's kind of like in Nashville with the wings. People wait in line. They'll run out of oxygen by the time they can get to the selfie of the mermaids. So I think, we should anticipate even increasing what's there. So once one goes in, seeing how successful it is, already have a backup plan to incorporate more into the area, because I think it would be huge. And why that specific site, though, is my question. Why wouldn't we put it more towards an area where, it's down in an area right now that is more passive, not so much foot traffic. So I just am curious as to why that specific area
That's where the permitting is right now.
is allowed.
Is allowed.
And there wasn't a specific reason as to why.
So they were just open. We were essentially looking at alternative sites for Dania initially. So that was the closest to Dania at the edge of the open permit zone, because the other area is a naval restricted zone. So we were not able to deploy in any of the area off of Dania, the city of Dania Beach.
Based off of sub-bottom surveys and.
Right.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's fine. I just wanted to clarify. I don't want it to be a grab, because we mentioned the Diplomat. So why wasn't it put out in front of the Diplomat, especially with the beach erosion and such? So I just wanted to make sure.
The two sites, there are 2 specific sites that are by the Hollywood Bridge and south, where the 2 yellow dots are. Those sites have already been permitted by Broward County. They were permitted by Broward County like 2 years ago. So we could just go into that existing permit. If we would have to look for another spot in the deep sea, we would have to go through a whole permitting process.
Where are the 2 yellow dots?
There's kind of like one directly to the right of Hollywood Boulevard, almost where the 2 red circles are. And then there's another yellow dot. It doesn't have the yellow circles, but it's just south of that, and that's closer to Jefferson Street. So there's one that's kind of, let's say, at Harrison, more or less, if you're thinking about it. And then there's the other yellow dot is a little bit further south. It's like by Jefferson Street. Those are the only 2 sites in Hollywood that Broward County already permitted.
Okay.
So for us, it's like saving money
Great
and time. And
opportunity.
yeah.
And then my question then is, could you potentially, I'm sure you guys are divers since you're doing this, correct? Right? Yeah. Can you potentially dive from one site to the other without, can you swim? If you went down for your dive, is it I think it's close enough perhaps, where you can go from one site to the other and then come up?
So if we do the deployment, we would want to do it at the one location, but the intention, if we're wanting to move forward in continued years, you'd be able to make the sites swimmable. In terms of those two permitted sites, it looks like it's about almost a half nautical mile, so it's a little bit of a distance. So you'd want to start off at the more southern dot because you'll be drifting northward.
And so that's just another potential, like thinking ahead and having it prepared, because most divers want to go down and kind of hit as many spots as they can and then come up. So you get more bang for your buck, I guess you would say. So I think it's amazing. I love the camera idea. And you said there's no maintenance once it's down. So that's huge. And have you reached out to other foundations? Well, being that you're at Nova Southeastern, the Guy Harvey Foundation and all of that, are they in support of this? Or is there any type of way to get them all involved so that they could really get this booming?
We haven't asked for any funding necessarily, but we actually do work with their education side. We're looking to bridge some teaching about artificial structures within the curriculum.
Okay.
So looking to explore that further.
Okay, awesome.
I just wanted to follow up on your observation about the buoy. I think the buoy is a really good idea because otherwise you run the risk
You
of
don't-
having anchors, hitting
Yep.
and damaging the.
So I think it would be
the
awesome,
reef.
and then now we
Yeah.
become a destination dive site. So that really enhances everything even further. So I would like to add the cost of placing a buoy as well. Since you have the barge, you're going out, you're putting this, it would be probably a very beneficial thing for the city.
And we will use our coastal consulting engineers to assist in that regard.
Awesome.
Great. Board Member Gruber.
Hello. Yeah, no, I love everything about this. I just want to be clear. So the ones that are going off coast, like the first one, that's 3/4 of a mile, there's really no impact as far as helping with erosion on those ones off the coast, right?
So that's around 40 to 45 feet of depth.
Right. So there's nothing there.
Yeah.
So, but the ones close to shore could be significant, but I think you would have to have maybe 5 or 6 of them in a row. Like, I don't think one would. I know in Vero
Yes.
Beach, they put down those long, I don't know if you're familiar with it, those concrete for this, and it works. So how many of these do you think we'd have to place close to shore to actually have an impact to help with erosion?
So we're estimating between 100 and 200 modules for specifically protecting against coastal erosion, and that'd be in the near shore between 15 and 25 feet.
100 modules. Okay. And this one we're talking about just one.
No, we're talking about 20.
No. Oh.
For our deployment would be 20 individual
This
units.
first deployment is 20 units there.
One
Yeah.
site.
One site, 20 units. Okay. So about 100 to 200 to have an impact. So.
Correct.
Okay. And maybe if this is going to go in front of the diplomat, and it would be an amenity to the diplomat, maybe they can help us with the cost of that.
I think when we get to that point, I don't know that the diplomat is one of the areas that are
near
identified
shore?
as the-
I mean, it looks like the zone, the red zone that's
Yeah.
pictured here, goes all the way to the southern limits of the city and beyond.
Right.
So that's a good idea to partner up. It
Yeah.
helps them if they have a snorkel opportunity in front of their resort.
It would be amazing for them and their guests. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Susan just pointed out that the near shore site is at Keating Park at Magnolia Terrace. But we will, in the future, as we proceed through this effort.
Is that already like set in stone? Because the diplomat idea makes total sense to have, because I know there's more than one shallow reef opportunity here. Susan?
So the 4 locations that were identified by Mike Jenkins from ATM, the coastal construction consultant, those were the only 4, the 4 locations that were identified were the only ones that were going to be permittable by the various agencies, Fish and Wildlife, DEP, Broward County. The amount of beach in the ocean at the Diplomat was not enough to put one there. I think he did look at that. But so the 4 locations were the only ones that were able to be permittable.
How far offshore? Is there a measurement from current shoreline, or is it more just depth of water, 8 to 15 feet?
I don't have all that information with me. I could get it for you, and I know that it's snorkelable. So,
Right, sure.
but I can provide that information.
And also to have a benefit, it doesn't have to be directly off of the coast. So if you're saying in terms of the diplomat, it'd still be viewable in terms of tourism. And also for the permitting sites, just to further elaborate, typically, I guess, beach and sea real estate's a little different, so we work with the county and the Army Corps. Not every single area is permittable. We have to be a certain amount of feet away from hard bottom and natural reef substrate.
All right, great. Well, look, everybody's excited about this. For myself, what I wanted to add was just to echo Board Member Kaleri, a Hollywood sign on the selfie mermaid. It could even be something that's less complicated than constructing it with the concrete that's fabricated. You can even put like some type of non-rusting aluminum, bronze, copper, whatever it is, like with a chain kind of hanging off the side, like a little sign. You could say Hollywood Beach, Florida, or Dive Hollywood Beach, whatever it is. I'm sure you guys will come up with something creative that can work in the underwater environment. And then the other issue was you mentioned, Shelby, the Port Everglades mitigation, and they're doing lots. They have to do a whole lot of mitigation for the deepening of and the expansion of the channel for the port. And that was another opportunity that I thought, if you weren't aware, to make you aware that this could be good for them, because if they need locations where they can replant coral. And so this could be one. Did you plan on seeking coral from them, from their mitigation requirements?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah. We're also working with 4Ocean, who's got a bid to remove tires from the Osborne Tire Reef. So we have the availability for actually more coral than we can actually put out.
Great. And the buoy just on the deep water reef, which is what we're talking about here, is I think really important for what George said. Otherwise, you're going to coordinates with your boat and you're dropping your anchor. You can't see the bottom necessarily, and I can see where these could definitely get damaged by heavy anchors. So a buoy would be great to just moor up to the buoy, and then you don't have to throw an anchor down for the obvious reasons why mooring buoys are placed in popular diving coral reefs to protect the reef from anchor damage.
Yeah, I think a buoy is an excellent consideration. Just at our West Palm site, we actually don't have a buoy and haven't had anchor damage, just to iterate that, but definitely a buoy makes it more identifiable. And then with further intention to expand the site, it could make an easy location where you can do a drift dive very easily.
Beautiful. All right, George, well, you'll bring it back.
We'll
I
bring it
just
back.
wanted to show you, Josh, the slide they put up, it has the Dania logo on it, so they could just shave that off.
Where do you see
On
that?
the right-hand side of the
I
module,
see.
you can see it a little bit.
I see. So I'll just
We need bigger.
Very big, yeah.
Speaking of Dania, I'll leave it at, a number of us have mentioned that the opportunity for you with Hollywood to be able to relocate this somewhere quickly is obviously an opportunity for you, and I think we expect to enjoy the cost opportunity for helping you out and helping us out at the same time, make it a win-win, Evan.
Which it was, if you recall, when we initially presented, I think the estimated cost was around $250,000, so we're about half that. And there are also other opportunities to place the not only city logo, as you mentioned, with either aluminum or bronze or a chain on the front of there. There could be an opportunity for a company logo, for family to sponsor Reef, and also as we work on outplanting the coral, which Shelby has positioned herself within numerous organizations and numerous boards to receive the corals, which are obviously federally permitted and protected. There is the ability to do adopt-a-coral programs as well, kind of like Adopt a Star, except you never really see that star. This would be something where we would actually have the ability to give an individual, a corporation, a foundation, whatever, the ability to know your coral is at this coordinate and actually contributing to,
Great. Last question is, are there any volunteer diver opportunities to help with the planting of the corals? Do you recruit local divers, or is it only people that are quote-unquote certified to place the coral? Are there opportunities for recreational divers to help?
For recreational divers, yes, you do have to be certified. We have actually a listserv of almost 3,000 people, but would really want to engage the local community and then also continued monitoring efforts. So if we do that citizen science program, we want to engage people on a regular basis. This is their resource, their opportunity to protect, and also continue restoration. So we'd like to use it as a nursery site that we can continue to fragment coral, outplant them on adjacent natural reefs and our artificial structure.
Great. Last comment with Commissioner Clary.
I'm glad you brought that up. My daughter's the president of the scuba club at
Ah.
FSU, so I already sent her the pictures. I was snapping them. I'm sure this will be one of the dive sites, so we'll put her on the list too.
Cool
Thank
deal.
you.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Great seeing you, George.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Informational
Thank you,
report.
Shelby. Thank you, Evan.
Thanks.